Hello everybody, my name is Matt Fradd and this is Pints with Aquinas and I'm holding an iced coffee. Yeah. Today I'm going to be responding to an interview that Brett Cooper was in with the Iced Coffee Hour, I think it's called. I don't know. That's not why I'm drinking an iced coffee. I just happen to love them because they're delicious. She spoke about pornography in it and they spoke for a good amount of time, so I thought I'd respond to it because apparently it is now my duty to respond to everything that comes out of the mouth of a Daily Wire employee. They don't even have to have a show. They can just be if the janitor speaks about pornography, even in private, I will be there, lurking around his family and just bursting out of the bushes, ready to moralize, ready to give my opinion, ready to correct his misunderstanding. But to be serious, I do think it's something that we got to get right. I think the Catholic Church has the most beautiful understanding, because it's the truest understanding, of the human person and human sexuality. And we want to help our non-Catholic conservative brothers and sisters better see so that they can be better able to fight against pornography and why it's evil. So that's what we'll be doing today. I'm going to be drawing a lot from my book, The Porn Myth. The Porn Myth is a non-religious response to pro-porn arguments. You can get it on Audible or paperback or ebook. 100% of the royalties from that book, no matter where you buy it or how you consume it, is given to a group in San Diego called Children of the Immaculate Heart who help those in sex trafficking. I don't make a cent from the book, but I think it's a good book. I think it's worth your time. And in getting it, you'll also be supporting this great cause. So again, it's called The Porn Myth. A ton of research went into it, and I'm pretty proud of it, you know? There's always things you wish you did differently, obviously, or had have not said, but for the most part, I think it's a very good book and very well researched, I will say that. One final thought before we get into today's interview. This is not meant to be an overly critical response to Brett Cooper or the fellas in this podcast. I think Brett did a great job, actually. I would push back on some of the things that she said, but I don't want to pretend that somebody on a podcast thinking things through in real time and doing their best to articulate her or his thoughts is their final say in the matter, you know? Like, I think that would be unfair to do. This is why if you watched my interview with Jonathan Van Maren shortly after Dennis Prager did that Exodus 90 thing when he spoke about pornography, I said, maybe this isn't really what he thinks. Maybe he was speaking off the cuff. Maybe we can get him a chance to revisit it. So I had him on to revisit it. And he doubled down in many respects. So that was... One day when we get Brett Cooper on the show and we talk a great deal about this, I suspect that our views would be very much aligned. That said, I am going to push back on some of the things that she said. I should have had that queued up. My bad. He asked her about why she's anti-porn.
All right, here we go. I also think that porn is one of the things that is destroying my generation.
Why is it so bad?
It's so bad because it emasculates men, degrades women, and destroys marriage, which is the very foundation of society. So that's a bit of an answer.
Okay, so first of all, with the porn industry...
Is it weird that I'm drinking iced coffee? Well, you're okay with it? Okay, I want you to be comfortable.
We know that it is fueled by criminal activity. I mean, the sex trafficking industry is funneled through porn. PronHub is dealing with, at this rate, 10 plus 15 lawsuits. Children being molested, put on the site. It is a breeding ground for terrible behavior.
She's exactly right. This is going on. This has been documented that acts of rape and sexual trafficking have been, in more cases than I think we're willing to admit, been documented and uploaded to porn sites and even sold to porn sites. I'm thinking of an article that came out of CNN several years ago. It was about a 54-year-old Japanese man who put out an advertisement in the newspaper saying that he was a health professional seeking women between certain ages to conduct sleep studies with. He gave them heavy sedatives and alcohol, and this is about to get a little heavy, so warning. While they were asleep, he abused them sexually, and it gets worse, filmed the abuse and sold the abuse to pornographic sites. He said for somewhere in the ballpark of $100,000. This stuff does take place, and it should cause us concern. If you watch pornography regularly, I don't think it's improbable that you have masturbated to a modern-day slave. And I put it like that to wake us up, because I think that realization should be a splash of cold water in the face. It should cause us to sort of sit back and say, my God, what am I doing with this beautiful gift of sexuality that you've given me, you know?
For women, I think we are fed this lie, that you can, as women, I think we are fed this lie that you can have this super happy and productive and like fulfilling life by just selling your body. It will not be that way. You look at the mental health of sex workers, you look at the mental health of, porn stars, it's not good.
This is 100% true. Jenna Jameson, perhaps no one's made it as big in the porn industry as Jenna Jameson, but in her best-selling book, she referenced a conversation that she had with Howard Stern when he asked her, were you ever sexually abused as a minor? She said no in the interview. In fact, in the book, she says, I lied like a rug. Then she talked about what it was like to be, again, forgive the heaviness of this topic, but sexually abused by several people at a high school. And later on, she was interviewed by, what's that fella's name? Anderson Cooper. And he said to her, if you have a daughter, will you let her do porn? What if she wants to? And she said, I would lock her in the closet. I mean, their lives are, for the most part, pretty bloody bleak. And obviously, when they're in the limelight, putting on a smile and saying how great this is the way to go. But if you listen to women after they've got out of the porn industry, it's usually a very different story. I want to share with you a quotation from legal scholar Catherine A. McKinnon, because I think this sheds light on sometimes what is the reality in pornography. She says, as with all prostitution, the women and children in pornography are, in the main, not there by choice, but because of a lack of choices. They usually consent only in a degraded and demented sense of the word, common also to the law of rape, in which a person who despairs at stopping what is happening, sees no escape, has no real alternative, was often sexually abused before as a child, may be addicted to drugs, might be homeless, is often hopeless, often trying to avoid being beaten or killed, is also always economically desperate, and they acquiesce in being sexually abused for payment, even if, in most instances, that payment is made to someone else. Now, is that the experience of the majority of people in the porn industry? I don't know, probably not. I think almost certainly not, especially with the rise of OnlyFans. But it is something that we have to face.
There's like the 1%, like on OnlyFans, who makes, they make millions of dollars and they're great, and that, will sustain them whenever they stop doing this kind of work. But for the majority of them, it is a terrible, terrible, terrible industry.
I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Yes.
And very much devil's advocate. Okay.
Yeah.
Graham's laughing.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think a lot of people,
Graham.
they fall into the porn industry because it's just like, by happenstance, I may as well do this. I can make a good buck here.
100%.
So I could see why that would probably not work very well mentally for people. It's like falling into something where, like you said, selling your body. But those that do intentionally move into the industry and they know that that's something that they enjoy, don't you think in that situation? I guess you did allude to the 1% of people.
Yeah, if it works for you, then that's fine. And I will never say to your face, like, you are lying to yourself about it. Because
no offense, but it sounds like some commie gobbledygook.
It's definitely not fine, and I would 100% say to the person who tried to justify producing pornography that not only are they doing something deeply immoral, but they're wrong to tell me that they're happy in doing it. I once gave a talk in Baltimore, and there was a porn performer at the talk, and the talk was on pornography, and at the end she stood up and, to her credit, actually was quite respectful. But she told me why I was wrong to draw some of the conclusions I was drawing, that it's not the case that all these women in the porn industry are these helpless victims who hate their lives, and that she's very, very happy. I'm really glad if it's true that she doesn't hate her life, thank God. But I said to her, you're wrong to be happy. See, happiness is not mere emotional contentment. If it were, pigs would be happy in certain instances, or maybe when you were asleep, you were the happiest. Happiness has to do with the fulfillment of our nature. Sin is contrary to our nature and so can never make us happy, especially serious sin like this that is so degrading to ourselves. So it's bloody well not okay.
I'm sure that there's some people that just like genuinely don't care and they have a good experience with it. But I think on a whole, and looking at like the entire gender, like women are not, you know, and maybe this goes back to like hookup culture and that kind of thing. But when you look at men and women, men are biologically designed to go sow the seeds. There's a reason why you do not carry a child for 9 months. For women, it's like, I need to find this one specific partner. I can only be pregnant for 9 months. Like, I can only carry, basically, you know, I can only have one pregnancy at once. I have to protect these eggs. I only have, you know, a set amount of eggs that I'm, you know, created. And so we are very, very protective over that. With men, you are literally designed to go repopulate the earth, literally. And so with women, there's a reason why, like, biologically, hookup culture and just sleeping with a bunch of people and leaning into that, and I guess, you know, porn is a little bit different, but still, this, like, sex-positive culture for women, I don't think it's healthy because it's going against.
It's funny that we call it sex-positive culture. If somebody is pro-porn, what they're promoting isn't sex. They're promoting what Jason Everett has referred to as an erotic moment with your laptop. This is not sex. This is anti-sex.
How I believe we are literally biologically designed. And I think for young men, it is allowing them to be complacent with just living online and not having real relationships. Like the violence in marriage.
Yes, a word about that. I mean, if the masculine genius can be summarized, I would say it means strength on behalf of others. There's something peculiar to men that they not only desire to and are more capable of, but it's the most beautiful thing when, and maybe all of these things are indicators that this is the masculine genius, when they offer their strength on behalf of others. The reason I said that pornography emasculates men, that it robs them of the ability to be masculine, is that instead of offering their strength on behalf of another, they degrade the other for the sake of their selfish pleasure.
Has like also, I mean,
okay.
I'll finish that thought and go into it. But I mean, like,
we both had to finish the thought.
Violence in relationships, domestic abuse has like skyrocketed with the normalization of porn. Often in domestic abuse situations, the man is like addicted to porn or has a history.
Let's say a word about that. I pulled out just a couple of studies here. This is from my book, The Porn Myth. In a meta-analysis of 46 studies published from 1962 to 1995, comprising a total sample of 12,323 people, researchers concluded that pornographic material puts one at increased risk of the following: developing sexual deviant tendencies, 31% increase in risk; committing sexual offenses, 22% increase in risk; accepting rape myths, 31% increase in risk. Here's another study. A study that both exposed participants to pornography and asked them about their pornography use found that high pornography use corresponds to higher acceptance of rape myths, acceptance of violence against women, adversarial sex beliefs, likelihood of committing rape and forced sex acts, and sexual callousness.
With it, 52% of divorces in this country cite porn as an issue, which is just an insane.
I think what she's referring to is the following. Among attorneys at the November 2002 meeting of the American Academy of Matrimonial Lawyers, 62% said the internet had been a significant factor in divorces they had handled during that year. Of those cases, 56% involved one person having an obsessive interest in internet porn.
Stat. But it makes sense because if you're unhappy and you're trying to find fulfillment or pleasure somewhere else, you're going to go that way. But I was reading this Reddit post from this person. They were arguing the benefits and the drawbacks between OnlyFans and PronHub, and they were arguing that OnlyFans was better. And one of the arguments for OnlyFans being better was because they were subscribing to an individual girl and they could create this like parasocial relationship with her. And it's like, it feels better because I'm not really objectifying her, and we have a relationship, we can chat and I can feel better. It's like, then go out into the real world and ask a girl on a date. Like, porn is allowing young men to stay in front of their computers and not strive for anything else. Like, overuse of porn, over masturbation, it with your hormones. Like, biologically, it has impacts. Mentally, men who are porn addicted, who even just are not even porn addicted but watch copious amounts of porn, are mentally very, very unhealthy. Like, it is not natural.
Yeah, this is actually 100% true. I document this in my book, The Porn Myth. Let's see if we can come up with a couple here. Studies have found that frequency of porn use correlates with depression, anxiety, stress, and social problems. It shouldn't be surprising that porn use is associated with depression, given that porn has the ability to mess with the user's dopamine system. Researchers found that dopamine signaling is a main factor in depression. There is so much I have in the book. Again, if you want the footnotes, go there. Let's see, researchers in Belgium looked at 14-year-old boys' academic performance twice and compared the two sources. They found that an increased use of internet pornography decreases boys' academic performance 6 months later. A study that looked at internet addicts, pornography was a main online activity for these subjects, found that they suffered from negative moods when they went offline. Another one, researchers have also found that moderate porn use is correlated with shrunken gray matter in parts of the brain that oversee cognitive function. So if you're pro-science and pro-love, you should be anti-porn.
And it's just like, and then on top of it, with the industry being so dangerous, it's like, why is this something that we've just become, so accustomed to? And it's happened really fast. Like my mom and I were talking about it. My producer, Matt Scheller, never, but my former producer doesn't work here anymore. He was in his 40s. We were talking about like with he and my mom, where if you wanted to watch adult content 40 years ago, 30 years.
I don't like that we call it adult content. I'm not criticizing her for this because I might sometimes use that phrase, but there is nothing adult about being led by your lower passions like a petulant juvenile child. Right? A sign of manhood, of adulthood, is having your lower passions subject to your reason, not the other way around.
Years ago, you had to go to a theater and you had to watch, with a lot of people. Like there was a reason why, I'm forgetting who the actor was that was like arrested for masturbating in a theater, like in an adult film. Or then later on with like Blockbuster and that sort of thing, you had to go into like the adult section and you were in public renting it out and that sort of thing. But it has become more and more private, where now it is literally on your phones. You can do a quick Google search. It is so at people's fingertips that there is now not really a stigma around it. Women are almost like encouraged to go into it in a lot of ways. You look at things online, you see girls that we're making millions,
Yeah, she's exactly right. Pornography is a shameful behavior and it ought to be stigmatized, and we ought to continually and loudly condemn it as something that is beastly.
Basically objectifying themselves and selling their bodies is almost appealing. With men, it's become so commonplace. Boys start seeing porn when they're like 13 years old. I saw porn for the first time when I was, I think, probably 14 or 15. It's become so normalized so quickly, and that is like the most shocking thing to me.
Just a quick shout out for a group called Covenant Eyes. I mean, Brett, I think, said she was 14 when she was first exposed to porn. The idea that we can give our children phones and laptops and iPads and Nintendo Switches and not expect them to have access to pornography or not expect that they will seek it out is, I think, foolish. Covenant Eyes is the best filtering and accountability software on the web. When you get it and install it on your devices, you, let's say as the parent, get a report of your child's behavior telling you where they went that was problematic, what search terms they typed, at what time, on what device. And not only does it search for text within the page, it can even detect quite well whether or not an image or a video, just by looking at that image or video, is pornographic. I mean, it's really, really, really excellent stuff. If you are a parent and your children have access to the internet, go get Covenant Eyes. I have it on all my devices, and I would go so far as to say it's an act of neglect not to have. If you're going to give your children devices access to the internet, it's an act of serious act of neglect for you not to install Covenant Eyes on all those devices or some other software. But I would say that Covenant Eyes is by far, head and shoulders, the best thing out there.
I also think, in a similar way as we were talking about like the culture around smoking weed, I do think that there's like a culture around young men who just sit in their homes and they just watch porn.
I do agree. I think the accessibility to porn is the real issue. Porn
Yeah, so this is what we call the 3 A's of the internet. Since the advent of the internet, pornography has become accessible, anonymous, and affordable in a way that it never was before. And because of that, porn use has skyrocketed.
I don't know if that's like a huge issue.
So he's saying that the accessibility is bad, but porn in and of itself, he's not sure if it's a big issue.
Guys know exactly what they're doing and they're very intentional about it. And the girls that go into the business are very intentional about going to the business. They feel pride with what they do. I feel like there's probably no problem with that.
Well, I would say there is a problem with sex trafficking.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, okay, good. There's a problem with sex trafficking. Yes, we can agree on. I don't mean to be sarcastic, but if your litmus test for what is a healthy, good sexual act is I'm not raping anybody, then bloody hell, you have fallen, and our idea of what man is has fallen so woefully short of where we should be.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I think now Pornhub, don't they verify IDs?
You can still get around. That's still like, I mean, Netflix is about to drop a whole documentary, I think, next month, literally just about the sex trafficking part of
trafficking
Pornhub.
objectively.
Yeah,
Of course. That's a bad part. I'm just talking about the theory of porn itself.
Yeah, but something that's crazy to me is that laws are just now being put in place where you have to verify your age to get on Pornhub. Like before, it was like you could just put in any birthday and get on and watch it. States are just now rolling out, you need to verify. Like if I was verifying my student discount on Spotify, putting in a student ID, whatever.
Imagine a data breach. Like
Yeah.
if we can't trust Equifax.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
There's lists you don't want exposed. Imagine going through the list
Yeah,
and just like
true.
Control F and like.
How are they going to check IDs and everything? Like you submit
You
a
scan
photo
it.
of your.
You scan it.
Wow.
And then there's the debate that a lot of people will agree that Pornhub and sites like Pornhub is objectively bad because they do not protect their creators. It's dangerous. It's just slipped up one too many times. So people say like OnlyFans is better. OnlyFans was not created as a like adult content site. It was created as like Patreon without any kind of like content regulations. They are not a sex site, and they're very, very clear about that.
Just because something is less bad than something else, it doesn't make it good and it doesn't make it healthy. If I said to you, I smoke 1 carton of cigarettes for breakfast every day, and that's less bad than smoking 10 cartons of cigarettes for breakfast every day, you wouldn't conclude from that, I shouldn't conclude from that therefore I am engaged in a healthy activity. And so we got to get away from this, well, I mean, this is technically less bad than this. I agree, like I said with Shapiro, like I said with Prager, that there is a spectrum, but what we need to be doing as men and women who want to be fully alive is turning 180 degrees in the other direction and asking, how can I be a good man? Like if you're married, how can I love my wife in the way she deserves? What kind of man could I become if I stopped justifying my lust and my cowardice? When I die, and someone gets up to say a few words about me at my funeral, what I don't want them saying is, he didn't look at porn, or he never raped anybody. We're not going to get to heaven and say to St. Peter, never raped anyone, and looking forward to getting in.
So they do not have any protections in place for their creators.
Well, I thought that the way around that was for their banking by saying like, hey, we don't just focus on this, we allow anything, and that's one of the ways around how they can get like lines of credit and a bank account and stuff like that.
Exactly, but also they were started initially. It was during COVID that it blew up as like a sex site because sex workers, like escorts, didn't have jobs during COVID.
Yeah, they're not workers. Prostitution is not sex work, and a woman's body is not a marketplace.
So they created OnlyFans, and people think that it is safer because of that, or that it's like feminist porn because women are producing it themselves, but it is often more dangerous because there are no regulations on the site because it is not an adult site. So OnlyFans has no way to report if like there's some guy that's trying to pimp you out. They do not have many verification things. There's all of these studies, mainly in the UK, of looking at kids who have gotten onto OnlyFans as creators or as consumers because their age verification, you can submit an ID that is not yours and still get an account. So if you could, like, there was this like story of a girl who used her aunt's ID, made an OnlyFans, and at 17 or 16 years old was doing OnlyFans content, and then got exploited. Like some crazy guy like found her and like a bunch of stuff. So they just do not have those protections. So like if the industry itself is not even safe, like I understand, like you have a right to do whatever work you want to.
Devil's
I don't
advocate.
think.
No, you don't. You definitely don't have a right to do whatever work you want. You do not have a right to do evil and to encourage other people to do evil.
Devil's advocate.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I don't think that. One, I don't think it's healthy for society as a whole. I don't think that that's doing anything good for any of us. But it's like I get it if you want to.
Because rights are bestowed by God, not by the state. That's why I say that. Sure, legally, she has a right to do it, but it's a fake right. It's like the right for two men to get married. It's not a marriage.
That's your
Well,
prerogative.
let's say
but
what
it's still
about
dangerous.
prostitution? Because don't they
Hold
say
on,
that's
hold on,
okay?
hold on.
All right.
Let's go back to
All right,
porn.
Jack,
Let's go back to porn.
I gotta say, I really like these guys. They seem very charming and I like their banter.
Porn,
Jack's
okay.
very
So
passionate.
is it the culture of porn itself, or is it porn in general?
Both.
I think it's both.
So
Like the
I agree.
industry-
I
I
think
think
the
that-
culture around porn, yes, is
Yeah.
extremely toxic and it's very bad. Probably an objective bad, right?
Yeah.
Let's take porn itself. Okay.
like the
With
actual
two very
videos.
intentional, two very intentional people consenting into this
Yeah.
whatever transactional relationship.
Yeah.
How is that bad?
If they are doing that, then I guess that's fine.
Right, so obviously I fully disagree with that statement from Brett Cooper, but again, she's offering thoughts on the fly in the context of a laid-back conversation. I would hope that she would change her mind or would think that she got that wrong. It's not fine. If two people choose to degrade each other, in a way that's worse, because you've got two people who don't understand their great dignity or don't care about it, and don't understand or care about the dignity of the other that they too are degrading. A lot of conversations about pornography revolve around what motivates it or what comes from it. And so I would say that things can be wrong because of what they bring about. Things can be wrong because of how they came about. And then things can be wrong because of what they are about. I'm talking about before, after, and the act itself. And I've said it before, but it's really important. Porn is not intrinsic. See, okay. A lot of iced coffee. So, there are certain actions that are not wrong in and of themselves, but can become wrong because of their consequences. Like if I went to Vegas and decided to go gambling one night, I think we would all agree I'm not doing something, all things being equal, intrinsically evil. But I could gamble to such a degree that I become addicted, that I spend my family's money, that I end up with marital problems, okay? And so fair enough, if you're trying to persuade people why they should get out of gambling or why they shouldn't get into it in the first place, and I think that's admirable, you might point to those consequences of gambling. Fair enough. But then there are actions that are wrong because of what they are. Child abuse, racism, rape. It's not like, well, if we just mitigate the negative consequences around racism, then maybe it's okay, in a way that you might say with gambling. And so you've got two things here. You've got one thing that we're looking at, like gambling, that's wrong because of how it comes about or what it brings about. And then you've got things like racism or child abuse that are just wrong because of what they are. And so the question is pornography like gambling, or is pornography like child abuse or like racism or something like that? And we have to say it's like racism. Like it's false because of what it is. It's wrong in and of itself. And what that means is, even if you could help somebody view pornography with regularity such that they never experienced a sort of neurological definition of addiction, that it didn't interfere with their marriage or their job or the way they viewed other people, and that you could be convinced that the pornography that they were watching was consensual and done with the strictest sort of guidelines, such that it, as well as it could, elevated the dignity of the participants. Like, what then? It's still evil. And it's evil because we should never treat people merely as means to an end. If you've ever been used, it feels like violence has been done to you, doesn't it? And that's because it has. The human person is a good towards which the only proper and adequate attitude is love. That's it. What is love? It's willing the good of the other for their sake. What's the opposite of love? Karol Wojtyła, who would go on to become Pope John Paul II, would say the opposite of love is use. Why? If love is willing your good for your sake, use seeks my good at your expense. It's always wrong. In addition to that, it is a perversion of what sex is. Sex clearly exists for the union of the spouses and an openness to life. If somebody is having an erotic moment with their laptop, neither is happening. They're thwarting the end of the goodness that is their sexual desire and drive.
Like, if you want to make videos in your own home, I guess maybe it's the selling of it.
That's also wicked. But you see what I mean? Like, I'm really not trying to come down hard here on Brett, because she's trying to think this through. And I'm pretty sure, I'm going to go ahead and say she will agree with me. And Brett, in the comment section, you can let me know that. In the comment section? Wow, I didn't even mean to do that. You can do a whole video on why you agree with me. I'd appreciate it.
What is it exactly about the selling of it? Because people sell their bodies in other ways.
But not in a way that degrades the person. And they're not selling their bodies as much as they are selling their labor or their talent. This is not true in pornography. Pornography, when someone consumes pornography, they're subordinating the dignity of the person to the inferior good of their pleasure. It's not that pleasure is bad, obviously, but even without faith, one can recognize that a person is worth more than pleasure, not to mention illicit pleasure.
That's very true. I guess I think in my mind that goes back to the industry. Like, will there ever be a safe way to present that pornography.
But if
And it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter.
there was,
creators,
Yeah, it wouldn't
then it
matter.
would probably be okay in the
Definitely not.
mind of Brett Cooper.
I think on a moral level, I would still say no. Because
I think,
I'm
you,
trying to
I
understand-
think you value intimacy
Go, Brett Cooper!
and having.
By the way, I love the. I think there's a great. I love the intellectual honesty of saying, I still think it's wrong. Maybe I don't even know how to explain it, but I sense that it's wrong. So I'm going to plant my flag here until you can convince me otherwise. That's a really good. A tactic makes it sound manipulative, but if you're in an adversarial back and forth, you don't have to concede the argument just because you don't know how to defend your position. You can say, I see what you're saying. I think I'm going to have to think about this more, but I think you're wrong. That is a perfectly reasonable, epistemologically humble position to take, I think.
Something that's like you feel is protected and is yours and is sacred.
I do too.
And I think that's something
I 100% I value intimacy. I value all of that stuff too. But at the same time, I'm very much the type where I don't want to be telling people that know what they're going into, what they should and shouldn't be.
I 100% will continue to do that, and shame on you for not being willing to tell people who are engaging in evil and who are degrading themselves and others and who are promoting the downfall of what is the rubbles of Western civilization what to do. Why would you not tell them what to do? You absolutely should be telling them what to do. This is the shrinking of morality. This is why we need the natural law. Because without, and the Catholic Church's teachings on the natural law, I encourage you to look into it. It is the most beautiful, most comprehensive way, apart from divine revelation, of discerning what is good and what isn't. Otherwise, literally all you're left with is, so long as you don't rape someone, technically you're being a good person.
Doing. And that's why I think
I think in a perfect world where it was totally safe, maybe. I can't give a solid answer because I still do not believe that it is a good for society. I think
Good woman.
people are on a whole negatively
it is a bad
impact-
for society. I would probably agree with that, yeah.
And also,
just because the
I don't
culture
think-
it trumps all.
And I think it's for the viewers, but also I would look at the people who, even if they are, consenting individuals, I would still look at that and be like, as Brett Cooper, I don't think you're making the right decision.
Yeah.
Like,
See, that's just what I said. See, Brett, we're on the same page. You rock. I love it. You're exactly right.
if I had control over your life, I would say do not do that. It is not going to be healthy for you in the long run. Like, you are literally blowing up your reputation.
What's unhealthy about it? Do you feel?
My gosh, she just spent a lot of time telling you what was unhealthy about it.
You're
From the
selling-
actresses or actors' perspective.
Yeah. I guess I keep going back to number one, the industry is very dangerous, but also on an emotional level, if you are just selling the
think it
most
takes tolls just after time?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Mentally, emotionally, you are.
I have a whole chapter in my book, and in my book, The Porn Myth, I'm debunking myths. I think there's 24 chapters in the book, and the chapters are quite short, relatively speaking, because I'm trying to respond with logic and science to certain arguments from pro-porn advocates. And one of the chapters is, women in the industry are just well-rounded nymphomaniacs and just let them go. And first of all, you can't be well-rounded and a nymphomaniac. That's an oxymoron. But in that section, I document what people in the porn industry say about what it was like after they're not trying to make a buck from it. And it's absolutely awful. When I gave it to my friend Trent Horn, he said he actually felt physically sick and was afraid he was going to throw up. That's how bad it was. I'm not going to read them on air, but again, feel free to go get The Porn Myth on Audible or on Amazon. Thanks.
Selling the most biologically intimate thing that you can do, and you're putting a price tag on. After that, what else do you have to give? It's you are literally breaking through every barrier. You have no privacy. This is the most intimate thing that you can do. I will never say that is objectively healthy.
It goes against
Good woman! And if it's not objectively healthy, then what is it? It's objectively unhealthy.
biology.
Yes.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not just that it goes against biology. I don't like this materialist view on everything. What is a person? Someone created in the image and likeness of God, who is destined for heaven, who has been redeemed by the blood of the second person of the Blessed Trinity, who desires them to be saved and has sought to save them at all costs. Our end is the beatific vision. Pornography sends souls to hell.
This is the most objectively private, intimate thing that we are now commercializing and selling. I will never say that could ever be healthy.
So you
Good for you, Brett Cooper. By the way, I'm aware that the 5 espresso shots that I had pumped into this iced coffee is definitely taking effect. So hopefully you're keeping up with my level of excitement.
would say biological truths are axiomatically correct morally.
I don't even know what that sentence means. I don't think it was actually meaningful.
Yes.
What did you just say? I'm sorry.
Okay, that's something I would actually kind of agree with to a certain extent. Okay, so just so everyone knows, okay, because I feel like people are gonna start thinking like, oh, Jack, he's like this crazy porn guy, whatever. Okay, because we've had 2 porn stars on the show before. Okay. And people said that it looked like I fell in love with the porn stars on the show, which is not the case. Okay, but that's like what the viewers got basically out of that, a very intense stare.
Yeah. Really listening intently.
Yeah, I do, but like I agree. Porn culture is extremely dangerous, and I think porn itself, if you're just taking 2 consenting people, I think that's probably fine. I'm not this crazy porn person, in case if you guys watching are wondering, okay, I don't even watch porn. I will say openly, I used to watch porn, and you know this, Graham. I don't watch porn anymore. No, and I found my
that's
life
incredibly admirable.
Thank
you. Well, first of all, like, good for him, and I want to say, if you're out there right now and you're a man or a woman struggling with pornography, like, you can be as passionate as I clearly am with 5 espresso shots in me against pornography while you struggle to be free from it. A hypocrite is not somebody who sometimes fails to live up to their standards. That's just being human, right? A hypocrite is somebody who tells everybody else not to do anything and thinks there's an exception for themselves or something like that, you know? So listen, if you're a man struggling with pornography, I want to point you to strive21.com, strive21.com. It is a 21-day detox from porn course I created to help people break free, men specifically, break free from pornography. It's very well produced. Every day you get a 3 to 5 to 7 minutes, somewhere in that range, video. And it's basically, what would I say to you over the course of 21 days if we could have a coffee together throughout that time? I think it's really well done, and it's 100% free. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to even share your real name. But as of now, we've had over 46,000 men go through Strive. So strive21.com, check that out.
It's very, very hard to do. It's also very, very rare to find men that will openly say that.
That you used to watch porn or that you quit porn?
Yeah, both.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that you like used to and that you quit, or that you like actively don't. That's very rare. And I'm somebody that like brings it up. I'm like, so let's talk about that. And it's like,
See, I feel neutral. Like I just don't care either way. I think if two people are consenting and they're not hurting anybody, I'm all for it.
Right.
I think there's a place for it. I think there's a market.
There was an example in Germany where somebody had always wanted to eat a human being, and another person had always wanted to be eaten by a human being. And the two of them got together, and one of them ate the other person after having killed them. Look it up! Is that okay? Like, just because 2 people consent to something, it doesn't make it right. My gosh!
I think there's a market for it, but you also have to think, on the side of the consumer, some people are able to perfectly...
If you get rid of like the audience
then,
for it,
but then it's going to go underground. Then there's going to be something else.
No, I wasn't meaning like making it illegal or whatever. But if like the culture changes and we start to kind of
should 100% be illegal.
Like, you know, in a similar way to how like sobriety is very, very cool now. Like there's all of these like mocktail bars that are opening up and that sort of thing. It's like if the culture starts changing around it, the market starts changing.
I still think that's such a small subset.
Yeah.
Like the mocktail industry, I think that's so cool. Macy was she ordered a mocktail. I had no idea those things existed, and I tried it. It was actually really cool. Like I like it. But I see these changes, but I think it's such a small part of the market. Like what, 10%?
It's growing, baby. There is an army of young men and young women who are bloody well fed up of the stuff that PronHub and company is pushing on them, and they want to live lives of dignity and purity. I'm telling you.
I still have hope for that because I still see it as like a productive change. And I still see those people as people that are going out and having conversations in their community and maybe changing minds or, you know, opening people up to a new thing. I think that that's exciting. But I do put a lot of fault on the consumers, because if there was not such a porn culture and consumption of porn, there would not be a market for it. People would not go into it thinking that it was some kind of...
What about prostitution? Because isn't that the oldest profession? Don't they call that?
I think so. Yeah, I would say. I don't
so isn't
support
that,
prostitution.
But I know, but isn't that similar? On a similar way.
Yeah, but just because it's existed for a long time doesn't necessarily make it.
But I feel like that...
Good job.
That should also be legal. I mean, if 2 consenting adults are...
This is just so... It's so bad. This is just such a bare bones view of morality. I've said it like twice now. I'm going to say it again. This idea that the only thing that we need to consider when judging an action right or wrong is whether or not it's consenting. What if somebody enjoyed being called racial slurs? They got off on it somehow. And somebody enjoyed like swearing at somebody in a racist way. Would that be okay? I suppose he would say, yeah, definitely is. And I would say, well, then you're definitely wrong.
Want to enter into a business arrangement.
I probably agree prostitution should be legal. Yeah, and you probably disagree with this, but I just think people, give them the right to do whatever they want. For the most part, yeah.
I think
in a safe place, of course.
Again, I always go back to the industry around it of like, and maybe the argument that it's like that, it's legal and there's more, protections and all of that stuff. Maybe it could be a different thing. But just because something has been around for a long time or has been done, in my mind, does not make it right or morally right. So I look at that and I still think that I don't think that people should be doing. I don't think that that's the healthy thing to do. Would I legislate that? I don't know. That's why I would never be a politician, because I like to be able to have nuanced conversations. I think I'd...
Right, yeah. These are two different conversations. Like, I did a debate a few years back with two people in the UK on a radio show called Unbelievable. You could look it up if you want. And I was debating a quote-unquote sex worker and a libertarian who thought, the government should stay away from pornography and all regulations were somehow unjust. And the way I got around making the argument for why I thought, pornographers should be jailed, let's say, is by saying, look, okay, in order to even consider whether or not pornography should be illegal, we have to first consider whether or not it's harmful. Because if it's not harmful, then there's no point having a conversation about whether or not it should be illegal. So why don't we just do that? And again, my book, The Porn Myth, does that. There's a lot of great websites out there. YourBrainOnPorn.com does that. FightTheNewDrug.com does that. Covenant Eyes has a great article section that does that.
Be in a terrible position. But I do believe that it is unhealthy for people. I believe that, selling your body is unhealthy. I believe that paying for sex is unhealthy. And so I will never advocate for something.
I would say it's unhealthy. But technically, in the bigger picture, when you consider the entire timeline of humanity, slavery has only not existed for a very short period of time. So just because something
crazy
is
to think about.
And it still does exist in many countries.
Yes,
of course.
Yeah. So I will say this though. I just want to make sure we wrap this up. Okay. If you guys want to quit porn, I would encourage it. I saw my life improve, and I want to openly say this because it's an uncomfortable conversation. Because I know my grandma watches this. Hopefully, she's not going to be tuned in this long.
Say hi, Gigi.
Yeah.
Say hi, Gigi.
Hello, Gigi. My dad sometimes watches. Sorry, Dad. But yeah, I don't watch porn, and I saw my life extremely drastically improve. And the way that
That's beautiful. Good for you, dude.
I saw it improve. I don't want to go into too much detail, but mostly I think that I stopped seeking instant gratification with certain things, and I started seeing the world through a lens of okay, I'm in this for the long haul. I want to find someone. I want to settle down.
So do you felt like that was holding you back from finding somebody?
It definitely made me so much less motivated to try to find someone. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Because you got that instant gratification.
Exactly, and then
why would you need to have a real life woman?
Yeah, it's just
have a nice...
okay, we're good for the day. Let's or whatever interval of time it was. Okay, I'm not disclosing too much right here. Yeah, we're good for the minute. No,
and that is the experience of a lot of men. And if you look at the studies, about especially men, but it's interesting now because there's so many more women that are
But here's the thing. My argument on that is boredom. When you're bored, you look for things to do. When you're working and you're
that's the most dangerous one is when it gets to boredom.
And I don't mind.
But I'm saying, if someone is on a mission.
If you're a woman who struggles with pornography, check out Magdala Ministries. They are fantastic and they will help you be free of pornography.
And they have stuff to do and they're busy and they're working and they're doing something productive. That's not something you think about. It's like when you're bored, there's nothing to do.
Well, boredom, I will say, contrarian opinion right here, I think boredom is actually extremely productive. And I think during...
All right, so we're getting into a different topic right now, but there we go. I hope you enjoyed that little review of Brett Cooper's interview. I think she did a good job. I was happy to push back a little bit in certain instances, but I honestly think when we finally sit down and make Thursday the most uncomfortable he has ever been, that we would agree a lot more than we disagree. God bless you. If you haven't yet, would you please? I don't want to beg you. I don't want to be weird about it, but click subscribe, click the bell button, and then... I don't know. Well, I'd feel good about myself. I also told Thursday, all right, so you should know this. Once we reach 400,000 subscribers, I'm going to buy him a 100,000 YouTube plaque, specifically for him, because when he came on board, we had 300,000 subscribers, and now we're obviously much more than that. I'd really appreciate it. And then also, just so you know, I'm going to put a link in the description to my book, The Porn Myth, and also to Magdala Ministries, which is that ministry for women who are struggling with pornography, also to Strive 21, which is the course that I came up with, and a whole other host of things besides. God bless. Bye.